community plan in British Columbia, if not Canada. So it is a very detailed and strong statement about maintaining the rural and agricultural character of your community in the face of very intense urban development pressures. So we live in a region where we're very close to Victoria. It's within commuting distance, and many of you probably do commute. But the sense is that you will build your 70 new units per year. So that's approximately what your official community plan says is about appropriate under your official community plan as infill in existing areas, or primarily as infill in existing serviced areas in your 4 designated urban areas. Now, a couple of other things that your official community plan says about rural development, or what is rural. Your OCP defines rural as unserviced, large, rural residential lots and agricultural lands not within the agricultural land reserve. So this is a preference for low density and indicates that rural development is largely unserviced, meaning not serviced by a community water system or collective water or sewer system. As well, under your sections under managing growth, policy 3 states that most new residential and mixed use residential commercial development should occur as infill and intensification within the urban service area, and the rest should be primarily rural agricultural or open space. So residential growth should be gradual, and as I said, approximately 1% growth rate is about 70 new units per year. And this is reflected in your regional context statement that is in line with what the regional growth strategy requires. So if you are to have new intensive development outside of your existing settlement areas, then there is this sort of gray area, and I think that this is exactly what we're running into in this particular development application as to whether it is actually a rural development, such that you would not need to amend your urban service area, or whether it is an urban development and you might need to amend your official community plan further than what is proposed. By way of comparison, so the proposal for this development has each lot on average is about 1/3 of an acre. And throughout the rest of the capital region, there are no municipalities that define rural on that small a scale in terms of smallness of acreage, except for Souk for a commercial agricultural zone, and then also for the town of View Royal, again for a commercial agricultural zone. So typically, the most intense rural development that we have in the region is, for example, the city of Colwood. Rural residential is 2.5 units per hectare. District of Highlands is 2.5 units per hectare. Likewise, Metchosin. The district of North Saanich, rural 5 is 2.5 units per acre. Per hectare. So even these are even larger. The district of Langford is 1 unit per hectare. So what we're seeing throughout the region is what municipalities are calling rural are much larger lots than what is proposed for this particular development. So what I'd like to leave you with are 2 particular points. The first is to call this development rural is somewhat of a question mark in your type of community that has very clearly established a line between what is urban and what is rural and what is going to happen in terms of the future development within your municipality. Secondly, I'd like to return to this issue of whether we're talking about this type of development is what is going to help save family farms or farming on the peninsula over the long term. And if we want to continue to have farms in the region, it's very clear that local governments and us as citizens are going to have to take action on farmland and assisting agriculture, and in particular around this issue of food security that we all are seeming to be more and more concerned about. However, the discussion about whether development is appropriate in a particular location, so location for development is a pass-fail criteria. If it's inappropriate in that location, it doesn't matter how good it is or how well thought out it is. The question is, first, the pass-fail criteria is it appropriate in that particular location. So we have to divorce this discussion about whether we have development in that location from saving family farms. So from a development perspective, orderly development through zoning to maintain property values, which is the purpose of zoning, and to ensure that we use our existing infrastructure in the most cost-effective way and efficiently over time, because we've all paid for the existing infrastructure for water or sewer that is present in our urban areas. We need to make sure that that occurs not only on a Central Saanich scale, but on a regional scale. So before we extend our urban containment boundaries, we need to ask, where is the next location that's appropriate for development? Not, oh, here's an application and we respond to the application. It's where is the least environmentally sensitive and also the most economically viable place that we then go to a greenfield site for development. And from an agricultural land and farming perspective, as I mentioned, we have market failure in this region when it comes to supporting agriculture and farming and enabling more people to get into it, because we're in an international land market. And when we have market failure, like we see with affordable housing, that's when local governments and citizens have to step in and support in a more tangible way, rather than just through zoning and land use policies, a particular industry in our region. So because farmers can't afford to purchase agricultural land on the type of salaries that farming pays, there are a variety of policy, approaches that we can take to supporting farmland that are happening across, in particular, North America. So I'll give you a few examples. The first one is to set up an agricultural land trust that could be a partnership of local government and private enterprise and nonprofit organizations to purchase agricultural land that then gets leased back on a 99-year basis to farmers, so it looks like a purchase, and then they're able to farm, but we take it out of the urban land market. Another example is to have an agricultural fund that can be funded through new developments in urban areas or through property taxes, where a fund is developed to assist in, again, the registering no subdivision covenants on agricultural land, for purchasing agricultural land and putting it back into the agricultural market as opposed to the urban land market, and perhaps having a regional agricultural office, which is linking people who want to farm with land for lease on land where urbanites live. So therefore, just in conclusion, the regional context is very important to take in this whole issue. We have a very effective and what has been working quite well regional growth strategy. You have a very solid official community plan that mirrors good planning practices. And as well, we need to support our farmers on the peninsula, but I submit to you that that is a separate discussion from whether this particular location is appropriate for this kind of what I would argue is urban development and not necessarily rural residential development. Thank you.
You'll note that I'm not introducing these people other than by name. I'm allowing them to introduce themselves in any way they will. I'm afraid to introduce them. Next up, Carol Pickup.
Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted with the number of people who've turned out. Thank you for your interest in a very critical issue. I grew up in the Cedar Hill area until I was 4 years old, and that used to be all farms, Japanese farmers who were pushed off their land during the Second World War and interned in the interior. They had their land taken from them with no compensation. That whole Cedar Hill area around where our store was at Lion Cedar Hill was farmland. Similarly, Gordon Head also. Similarly, Gordon Head was also good farmland, and that now is covered with houses primarily. We moved when I was 4 out to Central Saanich, which was then a ward of Saanich, and it didn't become a municipality till 1957, I think it was. By that time, I was in training as a nurse at the Jubilee. In any case, I grew up across the road from the Michels, picked strawberries and loganberries, and certainly knew how hard farmers had to work to make a living, and are still working hard to make a living. I will be going out tomorrow to pick up